There are people who are like open doors. Anyone enters, anyone leaves, no one knocks, no one asks for permission. And then there are walls. They don't shout, they don't move, they don't explain, but they are there, steadfast. And just by being, they impose. Not because they say it, but because they are felt. Because their mere presence reminds us that not everything can be crossed. This is how true respect works. It is not demanded, it is not negotiated, it is not posted on social networks. It is cultivated in silence and projected with strength. It shows in how you walk, in how you keep quiet when you could shout, in how you hold your gaze without losing control. It's not an act, it's a state. And those who don't understand it spend their lives claiming something that can only be obtained with discipline, with vision, and with character. We are not here to talk about false poses, nor about cardboard motivational phrases. This is not a video to pretend power, it's to build it, to remind you that if you have to ask for respect, it's because you've already lost it. And if you're willing to regain it, first, you're going to have to recover yourself. From the harshness of Stoicism, from the hardest foundations of psychology, and from the emotional wounds that forged us, we are going to explore 9 real ways to impose respect without asking for it. It's not about pleasing anyone, it's about never betraying yourself again, because whoever stands with dignity doesn't need to raise their voice to be heard. One, silence your defense. There are dogs that bark at everything that moves. Noise, agitation, uncontrolled energy. But they don't bite. They just make a fuss. And then there are those that don't bark. Quiet, firm, attentive. Nobody approaches them because their silence is not empty. It's a warning. The same goes for people. Whoever lives defending themselves all the time becomes noise. Whoever keeps silent firmly becomes presence. When someone attacks you, criticizes you, or underestimates you, the first thing your ego wants to do is defend itself, justify yourself, explain yourself, prove that you are not what they say. But the moment you fall into that trap, you've already lost, because you're validating that their opinion matters more than your integrity, because you're handing over control to the other person. And that's not respect, that's emotional dependency disguised as dialogue. From the Stoic perspective, one of the most powerful principles is voluntary indifference. It's not about staying silent out of cowardice. It's about wisely choosing where it's worth spending your energy. If you're always reacting, explaining yourself, justifying your decisions, what you're saying is, I still care too much about what others think of me. And here's the harsh truth. If you want to command respect, you're going to have to endure the talk, the criticism, the inventions, the mockery, because only those who stand in silence when they want to break them show real strength. Not everyone deserves a response. Not everyone has the right to access your inner world. And not everyone has earned the privilege of seeing your explanatory version. From a psychological perspective, this is known as emotional self-regulation. Knowing when to be silent, even when it burns inside, not because you're repressing yourself, but because you're choosing. Because those who live in reaction live as slaves. But those who learn to respond calmly become masters of themselves. And that calm imposes, it unsettles, it disarms. Because we live in a world where everyone talks, but very few know how to keep silent with purpose. Commanding respect is not about acting tough. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need to defend themselves to feel valuable. It's understanding that your worth doesn't depend on recognition. It's knowing that if someone attacks you and you remain silent, firm, without the need to counterattack, that person will feel it. Because your silence says, I don't need to prove anything to you, you're not on my level. And beware, this doesn't mean that you become passive or allow abuses. It means that you choose your battles, that you don't react impulsively, that you understand that automatic defense is often just a reflection of fear. And respect is not one with fear, it's one with presence. with composure, with control. So the next time someone questions you, provokes you, or tries to knock you off your center, keep silent, breathe, look into their eyes, and remember, those who truly have power don't need to prove it, because those who defend themselves from everything reveal their insecurity. But those who keep silent firmly command without saying a single word. 2. Make no your guardian. A house without locks is not cozy, it's vulnerable. It's open to anyone who wants to come in, with or without permission. This is what happens to many people. They leave their emotional doors wide open, hoping to please, to be accepted, to not lose anything, and they end up losing themselves. Because when you don't know how to close, when you don't know how to stop, the world doesn't hesitate to run over you. Saying no is not rudeness, it's not rejection, it's not ego, it's protection, it's clarity, it's the purest form of self-respect. Because the respect that comes from outside only arrives after you have shown to have it inside. And that inner respect is built every time you choose not to betray yourself for fear of discomfort. Many avoid saying no because they don't want to seem harsh, cold, or selfish. But what they don't see is that by saying yes to everything, they are giving away their energy as if it were worthless. They accept tasks that do not belong to them. They remain silent when they should speak. They demand more than they can carry, all out of fear. And fear never imposes respect. Fear is smelled, and whoever detects it uses it. To impose respect is to have boundaries, clear, non-negotiable, not aggressively, but firmly. Saying no is standing up inside. It's saying, I know who I am, I know what I want, and I'm not going to cross this line just so you're comfortable. And whoever has the courage to do that, even if they tremble inside, has already begun to change their story. On an emotional level, this touches deep fibers, because there is a very human pain in disappointing someone, but there is a much quieter pain in disappointing yourself. And that's what happens when you give in to please. You empty yourself inside slowly while you smile outside. Until one day, there is nothing left of you, just an edited version that others have shaped. Psychologically, knowing how to say no is maturity. It's self-esteem in action. It's letting go of the need to be liked, to avoid conflict, to be the good one. Because sometimes being good to yourself means being clear with the rest. You're not going to be there for everything. You're not going to say yes out of obligation. You're not going to allow yourself to be manipulated with guilt. And whoever doesn't understand that, step aside. It's that simple. Saying no is choosing yourself. It's standing in front of the mirror and saying, I prioritize you. Not because others don't matter, but because if you neglect yourself, no one else is going to come to save you. And when you become someone who knows what they don't want, what they don't allow, what they don't tolerate, you automatically emanate something different, an energy that doesn't need to be explained, that is perceived, that imposes. So don't be afraid to close doors. Don't be afraid to make clear what you're not going to allow. Let every no you say be a declaration of strength. Let every boundary you set be a promise you make to yourself. Because whoever has the courage to take care of themselves becomes someone that no one dares to cross without permission. 3. Become the one who observes the game, not the one who shouts it. The sniper doesn't run around the field shooting wildly. He stays still, analyzes, waits. He doesn't say a word. But when he pulls the trigger, everything changes. Why? Because his power is not in the noise, but in the precision, in knowing when to act and when not to, in not wasting a single movement. This is how you have to operate if you want real respect, like someone who doesn't need to shout for their presence to have an impact. Most people live shooting in the air. They have an opinion about everything, respond to everyone, argue with anyone. They believe that talking more is imposing. But respect is not built from noise, but from calm, from control, from that firm stance that doesn't need to be validated at every moment. The one who observes in silence dominates. Because while others react on impulse, you are seeing the complete map. You are deciding where it is worth intervening and where you simply have to let them sink on their own. That cold look, that emotional distance, that control over your reactions is what imposes. Because no one can manipulate someone who doesn't get carried away by the heat of the moment. There is immense power in learning to stay quiet while everyone else is shouting. While others are drowning in explanations, you breathe. While others try to impose themselves by force, you are simply there, but with a strength that can't be faked, a strength that comes from knowing that you don't have to prove anything, that you already know, that you already are. And of course it's not easy, because your ego will want to respond. It will want to shout, defend itself, prove it's right. But that's where the difference lies between those who need respect and those who impose it. The one who needs it reacts, the one who imposes it chooses. And that choice, that pause, that silence are much more lethal weapons than any hasty word. From an emotional standpoint, this is pure personal mastery. It's knowing that not everything deserves your energy, that not all attacks are worthy of a response, that sometimes real respect is built with each moment you decide not to stoop to the other's level, that you choose to stay above, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. And from a psychological perspective, the one who observes more and speaks less has a strategic advantage. They understand the dynamics better, see patterns, notice details. While the rest are lost in reaction, you are building a solid, coherent, respectable stance. Because your voice is not one of many. It's the one everyone notices when it finally decides to show up. So, change the way you play. Don't be the one who runs with the gun in hand, shooting senselessly. Be the one who waits, the one who analyzes, the one who doesn't waste gunpowder on cheap fights. Because in the end, the one who observes in silence and acts with intention not only imposes respect, they become immovable. 4. Treat yourself as someone who admires you would. Imagine that you carry a unique, irreplaceable jewel, valuable like no other. You don't leave it on any table. You don't lend it to just anyone. You don't abandon it carelessly. You protect it. You clean it. You take care of it as something sacred. Now, replace it with you. That jewel is you. And the way you treat yourself every day screams to the world how much you're worth, or how much you doubt yourself. You can't expect others to respect you if you don't do it yourself. If you talk to yourself with contempt, if you demand from yourself without compassion, if you belittle yourself in silence hoping that someone will come to validate you. The respect you impose outwardly begins with how you hold yourself inside, and it shows. It is reflected in your posture, in your gaze, in the decisions you make when no one is watching. Many times we are our worst judges. We talk to ourselves harshly. We blame ourselves for everything. We compare ourselves to those who have nothing to do with our path. And that silent mistreatment wears down the soul. Until one day, you get used to living like this, believing that what you give is never enough, that your worth depends on the outcome, that if you fail, you are no longer valuable. But if you really want to command respect, start seeing yourself as someone who admires you would. Someone who sees your effort, your story, your pain, and still looks at you with pride. Because someone who admires themselves doesn't sell themselves short. They don't accept crumbs. They don't kneel to be loved. They stand firm, not from arrogance, but from dignity. Treating yourself with respect is telling yourself the truth even when it hurts, but without destroying yourself. It's demanding discipline from yourself without punishing yourself with hatred. It's acknowledging your mistakes without dragging yourself through them. It's knowing that you can improve without devaluing yourself in the process. Because no one grows from contempt. No one becomes strong by hating themselves. From an emotional standpoint, this is reconnection. It's about stopping waiting for external approval and starting to build it from within. It's looking at yourself in the mirror, and even though there's still a ways to go, saying, "There's something valuable here. and I'm going to protect it, because that changes everything. It changes your energy, your body language, the way you enter a room, and that commands respect. From a psychological perspective, self-image shapes your relationships. If you see yourself as weak, you'll accept being treated as such. But if you see yourself as strong, firm, valuable, you'll project that without saying a single word. And others will notice, because someone who respects themselves educates without speaking. They set boundaries without stating them. So start today. Treat yourself as that person who looks at you with admiration would. Speak to yourself with strength. Demand from yourself out of love, not punishment. And every time you doubt your worth, remember, respect doesn't start in the world. It starts with you. And whoever learns to hold themselves with dignity becomes someone impossible to ignore. 5. Let your stride have intention, not permission. A lion does not ask if it can walk through the savannah, it simply does. It does not need applause, it does not seek approval. Its mere presence is enough. Each step it takes carries the weight of knowing it has the right to be where it is. This is how you should move, with intention, not waiting for permission. Because if you need to be authorized to move forward, you will live tied to invisible chains all your life. Many people do not command respect because they do not believe they deserve it. They walk as if they were apologizing for existing, for taking up space, for having their own ideas. They speak with fear, act with doubt, live looking for signs of approval before making a decision. But that attitude does not project respect. It projects insecurity. And insecurity is the favorite language of those who seek to control you. If you want to command respect, stop asking for permission to be you. Stop waiting for the world to give you the green light to move forward. People who inspire respect are those who walk with clarity, who know what they want, who do not need to be validated at every step. Not because they believe they are superior, but because they are convinced that they have as much right as anyone to be there. Moving with intention does not mean running over others or acting from arrogance. It means that you know why you do what you do, that you have a north, a fire, an internal cause that does not need anyone's approval. And when someone walks with that energy, it is felt. Not for what they say, but for how they hold themselves, for how they enter a place, how they speak, how they occupy their space without apologizing. Emotionally, this is liberation. It is to stop burdening yourself with the expectation of pleasing everyone. It is to let go of the need to be liked and start respecting yourself more than pleasing, because those who live to not inconvenience end up losing strength. But those who move with conviction, without fear of judgment, make a difference, even if it bothers, even if it does not fit, even if it hurts. Psychologically, walking with intention is acting from identity, not from doubt. It is having an internal structure that does not break with external opinion, and that generates a different presence, one that does not scream but imposes, one that does not beg but stays. So walk as if you know exactly who you are, even if you are still learning. Speak as if your voice deserved to be heard, even if it trembles. Occupy your place without asking for permission, because no one else is going to authorize it for you. And if someone is uncomfortable with your firmness, it is not your problem. It is their discomfort with someone who is no longer willing to shrink to please. Walk with intention, because whoever moves forward with clarity commands respect without having to say it. 6. Never kneel your soul. There are bodies that walk upright but carry their souls on their knees. They look strong on the outside, but inside they have already surrendered. They have said yes when they wanted to scream no. They have kept silent out of fear. They have lowered their heads so many times, they have forgotten how to hold them high. And when the soul kneels, respect escapes. Because nobody respects those who no longer respect themselves inside. You can lose many things in life and move forward: money, friendships, recognition. But if you lose your integrity, if you betray yourself to belong, if you kneel to what you know is not right just to fit in, there is nothing left. You disarm yourself. You break. And people perceive it. Because respect is not in what you say, it is in what you allow, in what you defend, in what you endure in silence, even knowing that you are breaking. The world is going to demand that you kneel in many ways. In the face of social pressure, misunderstood authority, fear of being alone, or losing an opportunity. But true strength is measured in those moments, in the ability to look straight ahead, even when you tremble, and say, "Not with me, not like this, not in this way." And it's not about being rebellious for the sake of rebellion. It's about standing firm in your values, even when everything outside pushes you to let them go. Because that commands respect, not your voice, but your consistency, your way of not breaking, even though everything asks you to. Your loyalty to what you are, even if that means losing things that others would not dare to let go. From an emotional standpoint, this is pure dignity. It's choosing yourself when no one else does. It's holding your soul high when everything inside you wants to give up. Because whoever betrays once will continue to do so. But whoever decides not to kneel, even if they tremble, even if it hurts, becomes unbreakable. And from a psychological perspective, real self-esteem does not come from external applause. It comes from knowing that you did not bend, that you did not sell out, that you did not crawl for anything or anyone, and that even if they don't see it, even if they don't recognize it, strengthens you, because it belongs to you, because you built it yourself, alone, in silence, in the midst of fire. So no matter how many times life puts you on your knees on the outside, don't kneel your soul. Don't betray your truth. Don't become what you swore you would never be just out of fear of losing. Because the respect that matters most is not the one given to you. It's the one you're not willing to lose for anything. 7. Breathe before you give away your power. A spark doesn't ignite a fire on its own. What triggers it is the wind that no one controlled. That's how our emotions work. A word, a look, a provocation. And if you don't know how to breathe in time, you give away your power without realizing it. You become an uncontrolled fire. And the worst part is that you not only burn others, you burn yourself. Most people lose the respect they could command at the exact moment they stop breathing before reacting, because that's where everything is decided, in that second between what you feel and what you do. That small space between the stimulus and the response is where you either take control or you give it away. When someone provokes you, attacks you, or emotionally pushes you, they're looking for just that, your reaction. They're not interested in what you think. They're interested in seeing if they can pull your strings, if they can make you jump, if they can drag you into their territory. And if you don't know how to stop, breathe, process, then you end up acting from the wound, not from strength. Respect is lost when you live at the rhythm of impulse, when every word of yours is born from anger, fear, pride. But when you learn to breathe before acting, to restrain yourself before exploding, to think before responding, something changes, because you're no longer manageable, you're no longer predictable. You become someone who decides, not someone who reacts. Emotionally, this is one of the biggest challenges, because when something hurts us, the natural thing is to defend ourselves. When something offends us, the easy thing is to respond. But there's no power there. There's only loss of control. And no one respects someone who loses control. They may fear them, they may avoid them, but they don't respect them. Respect comes from mastery, from seeing you in your center even when everything around you seeks to knock you down. From a psychological perspective, breathing before acting is what allows your rational part to take command. So you're not a slave to the moment. so you don't say things you'll regret later, and even more importantly, so you don't give away your emotional power to the first person who pressures you. Because every time you explode, you give the other person the keys to your center. You tell them, without words, that they can manipulate you. So, breathe. Seriously. Stop. Not because you're afraid, but because you're strong, because you don't need to react to feel strong, because you know that sometimes the real power is in not responding, in not falling, in not igniting the fire, even if you can. Breathing before acting is a reminder that respect is built in the seconds when no one sees you. But you choose not to lose yourself, because whoever learns to breathe when they're burning becomes a controlled storm. And that storm commands respect, because it doesn't destroy on impulse, it moves with intention, and that's not confronted, it's respected. 8. Choose your peace even if it hurts. Sometimes letting go is like pulling out a thorn that you've carried for so long that you've learned to live with the pain. It's not comfortable, it's not immediate, but it's necessary, because if you don't remove it, the wound doesn't heal. And peace doesn't come when everything falls into place. Peace comes when you decide that you're not going to keep carrying what breaks you, even if it hurts to let it go. Commanding respect is also knowing when to leave, knowing when to say enough, choosing your well-being over drama, guilt, fear, or misunderstood affection. There are relationships, situations, even versions of yourself that need to die for you to move forward, but because they hurt, you cling. And that's where you lose, because nothing wears you down more than staying where there's no growth, only attachment. Many times, maintaining inner peace requires making tough decisions, cutting ties, putting distance, telling uncomfortable truths, or letting go of what you love. But that's not coldness, that's self-respect. It's recognizing that your well-being can't depend forever on what doesn't give you peace. Because if having someone close means being at war with yourself, you've already lost. The most common mistake is thinking that peace comes after the world changes. But peace is not a prize, it's a choice. One that hurts, yes, because it hurts to disappoint others. It hurts to leave behind what's familiar. It hurts not to meet others' expectations. But it also liberates, it also organizes, it also heals. From an emotional standpoint, choosing your peace is the bravest act you can do, because you're telling yourself, I deserve something better, even if I don't know what it looks like right now. It's to stop negotiating with what hurts you just because you fear being alone. It's learning to embrace silence if it means not living amidst the noise. From a psychological perspective, this is maturity. It's setting your boundaries, even if that makes you the bad guy to others. It's understanding that you don't have to destroy yourself to hold up something that no longer supports you. And that it's okay to prioritize yourself. It's not ego, it's balance, it's mental health, it's respect. You're not going to command respect if you're capable of betraying yourself to fit in. If you're willing to endure the unbearable just not to disturb. The world doesn't respect those who don't choose themselves, because it shows. In the tone of your voice, in the way you walk, in the decisions you make. It shows when someone is at peace with themselves, and that's not up for debate. It's respected. So even if it hurts, choose your peace. Even if it costs you tears, difficult nights, or goodbyes, do it. Because nothing commands more respect than someone who's willing to lose everything, except themselves. 9. Don't insist where there is no echo. It's like watering a plastic plant. You pour water on it, you talk to it, you take care of it, but it doesn't grow. No matter how much affection you put in, how much patience you have, or how many times you try again, it's not going to bloom, because it can't, because it never had life. And that happens with certain people, certain spaces, certain relationships. No matter how hard you try, they won't bear fruit, because there's simply nothing there. One of the quietest ways to lose respect is by insisting where you've already been ignored, where your words fall like drops on concrete, without a trace, without impact. Sometimes, wanting to be heard forcefully is not bravery, it's desperation. And desperation does not command respect. It reduces it, it dilutes it, it turns it into a need. You're not here to convince anyone. You're not here to explain your worth, your vision, your truth over and over again. Because if you have to repeat it so much, they're not listening to you anymore, they're just tolerating you. And whoever only tolerates you will never respect you. There is an abyssal difference between insisting on something worthwhile and wearing yourself out for something that died a long time ago. And knowing how to distinguish that is what separates those who value themselves from those who betray themselves. Because yes, we all want to be heard. We all want to feel that what we give has an echo. But there are places where that's not going to happen. And respect begins when you decide not to stay there. If you really want to command respect, learn to leave without making a scene. Learn to let go without losing your center. Because there is strength in that firm step that doesn't need an explanation. In that retreat that is not a flight, but an affirmation. I'm not going to keep watering what doesn't want to grow with me. From an emotional standpoint, this is brutally liberating. Knowing that you don't need to insist where there is no reciprocity. Knowing that your presence doesn't have to beg for space. And from a psychological standpoint, this is healthy. Because when you insist on what doesn't respond, what you're doing is reminding yourself every day that you're not enough, when in reality, the problem was never you. It was the wrong terrain. Learn to read the silence. Learn to recognize when you've already given all you could. And above all, have the courage to stop. Because insisting beyond what is necessary is the fastest way to break yourself inside. And you're not here to break, you're here to build. So if there's no echo, don't raise your voice. Don't explain anymore. Don't ask for what should be born alone. Stand up, turn around, and move on. Because your worth is not measured by how many times you're heard, but by how many times you decide not to beg. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment, "I am Stoic," as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.